Teenagers control the internet, influence global culture, and make millions of dollars online, but their brains are not mature enough to make good decisions about their own lives. This is not an insult. This is neuroscience. The teenage brain is simultaneously the most powerful learning machine on the planet and the most unreliable decision-making system you will ever encounter. Understanding this paradox explains why teenagers dominate digital culture while often making catastrophically poor choices in their actual lives, and why adults should never let teenage preferences determine their own behavior or society's direction. The teenage brain is essentially a Ferrari with broken brakes. The regions responsible for novelty-seeking, risk-taking, and rapid learning are fully developed and hyperactive, but the regions responsible for impulse control, long-term planning, and understanding consequences will not finish developing until around age 25. This creates a biological situation where teenagers have maximum drive and learning capacity, but minimal wisdom and judgment. They are evolutionarily designed to explore, experiment, and push boundaries, but they are not designed to evaluate whether their experiments are actually good ideas. This explains why teenagers excel at adapting to new technologies, creating viral content, and identifying cultural trends. Their brains are specifically optimized for novelty detection and rapid adaptation to changing environments. They can learn new platforms, games, and communication methods faster than adults because their neural pathways are still highly flexible, and their brains reward new experiences more intensely than adult brains. But the same neurological features that make them amazing at digital adaptation make them terrible at risk assessment, future planning, and understanding long-term consequences. The prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive function, impulse control, and mature judgment, is the last brain region to fully develop. Until this region matures, teenagers literally cannot think about decisions the same way adults do. They process risks and rewards differently, have difficulty considering long-term consequences, and are much more influenced by peer opinions than by logical analysis. This is not a character flaw that can be corrected through discipline or better parenting. This is a biological limitation that affects every teenager regardless of intelligence, education, or family background. Brain imaging studies show that when teenagers make decisions, they primarily use the limbic system, emotional brain, rather than the prefrontal cortex, rational brain. This is why they can simultaneously demonstrate incredible creativity and intelligence while making decisions that seem obviously stupid to adults. They are operating from brain regions that prioritize immediate rewards, social approval, and novel experiences over careful analysis and long-term planning. The most dangerous misconception in modern society is that teenage preferences and behaviors should guide adult decisions or cultural directions. Because teenagers are early adopters of technology and cultural trends, many adults assume that following teenage preferences is the key to staying relevant and successful. But this is backwards thinking that ignores the biological reality of brain development. Teenagers gravitate toward novelty, intensity, and immediate gratification, not because these things are inherently valuable, but because their brains are wired to seek these experiences during this developmental phase. What appeals to a developing brain is not necessarily what serves a mature brain or creates lasting value. Adults who pattern their behavior after teenage preferences are essentially allowing their mature, rational brains to be hijacked by immature decision-making systems. This explains why social media platforms designed to capture teenage attention often leave adults feeling anxious, scattered, and dissatisfied. These platforms exploit the teenage brain's vulnerability to novelty and social validation, but they do not serve the deeper needs and capabilities of mature brains. The key insight is that teenagers and adults have fundamentally different neurological needs and capabilities that require different approaches to learning, entertainment, and decision-making. What works for a teenage brain often undermines the function of an adult brain, and what serves adult development might seem boring or irrelevant to teenagers. This does not mean one approach is superior. It means they are optimized for different developmental phases with different biological requirements. Have you ever noticed that things you found exciting and important as a teenager now seem shallow or uninteresting? This is not because you became boring. This is because your brain developed the capacity for more sophisticated forms of engagement and satisfaction. The novelty seeking that dominates teenage preferences becomes balanced by wisdom, experience, and the ability to find meaning in depth rather than just intensity. For adults, the strategic approach is recognizing when teenage innovations and trends offer genuine value versus when they are just exploiting immature brain chemistry. Some teenage-driven innovations like social media platforms and gaming technologies have created genuine value and efficiency improvements. But many teenage preferences around entertainment, communication, and lifestyle choices are specifically designed to exploit developmental limitations rather than serve human flourishing. The most successful adults maintain the positive aspects of teenage brain function: curiosity, adaptability, and learning enthusiasm, while applying mature judgment to evaluate which opportunities are worth pursuing versus which are just appealing to immature brain systems. They can learn from teenage innovations without being controlled by teenage preferences. For parents and educators, understanding teenage brain development provides crucial guidance for managing this challenging developmental phase. Teenagers need appropriate boundaries and guidance precisely because their brains cannot yet provide reliable internal guidance. But they also need opportunities to explore and experiment within safe parameters, because this experimentation is essential for proper brain development. The goal is not suppressing teenage nature, but channeling it in directions that serve their long-term development rather than just their immediate impulses. This requires adult wisdom to create environments where teenage brains can develop optimally, rather than being exploited by systems designed to profit from their neurological vulnerabilities. If you want to learn how to harness the positive aspects of teenage brain function while avoiding the pitfalls of immature decision-making, both for yourself and others around you, follow this channel and turn on notifications. I am going to show you exactly how to work with different developmental phases to maximize potential while minimizing the risks of neurological immaturity. What teenage preference or behavior trend do you think adults should